Yep, today is going to be a very sad vlog. In 1977, Lynyrd Skynyrd got on their private plane and took what was supposed to be a flight to an ordinary concert gig. But unfortunately, that plane ended up crashing, changing the course of music history forever. My friend Gene Odom at the time was one of Ronnie's best friends. He worked for the band, and he's a survivor of that crash. So we're gonna be meeting him out at the crash site memorial today. I've never been here, and I just, you know, having the opportunity to get to come out and see it for the first time with someone who can tell a story about that day, I thought was just an opportunity I couldn't pass up to share with you guys. So we're about 5 miles from the crash site now. Let's go visit our pal Gene Odom. We're getting close. Here it is. What a beautiful monument they've made. Look who I met. Wow, you can see right here, they really tell the entire story upon these 3 big memorials. Now take a look at the opposite side, where the story is on the other side. This has a memorial to all those who perished. The great Steve Gaines. Beautiful Cassie Gaines. And right over here, the whole band. Man, this is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. They did a fantastic job on this. And then over here, Ronnie. Ronald Wayne Van Zant. And Dean Arthur Kilpatrick. So not only are we meeting up with Gene out here, but the landowner where the plane crashed is actually out here with us as well. And the actual crash site is back beyond this fence on private property.
We're going to leave Greenville, South Carolina, coming to Baton Rouge, and our limo drivers were like 2 hours late, so we took taxi cabs from Greenville to the airport. And boarding the plane, we were excited, you know, going to Baton Rouge, and Ronnie had been up all night partying and carrying on, and he had took 2 sleeping pills and he was groggy. And he come to me and he says, Gene, I took 2 sleeping pills. I need to get some sleep. It's going to be about a 2-hour flight. And I put him on the other side of the table underneath Alan, Gary, and Kevin Nelson's feet on the floor. So
they were sitting on like a couch in the plane, right? Kind of?
Yeah, it was a couch there that would seat 4 people, and in front of the couch was like a 2x6 table. You could set your drink on it, or Coke, or put your feet on it.
Okay.
And I set him in there underneath their feet, so people could go to the galley on the outside, and Ronnie could lay there and sleep.
Okay.
It wasn't too far from here down the road when we started running into the engine problems because we were running out of fuel. When we came across, not around Macomb, coming west, we started running out of fuel and the engine's acting up. And then Houston told them they needed to turn around and go to Macomb. And they made the turn when they still had power on the engines. And we were headed this way after they made the turn, coming across this way. And then after they made the turn is is when both engines ran out of fuel. And then they had no power, no flap control, no nothing. So they couldn't maneuver the plane or do anything. It was just...
Could you feel it? I mean, at some point, when were you alerted in this process that the plane was going down, or what was going on? What were you doing during the flight?
Well, I would say not panicking, but I knew we was in trouble because that plane was extremely heavy, weighed about 30,000 pounds empty. And so when they made the turn, we still had power, flap control power. And after they made the turn is when both engines died, and there was no maneuvering the plane. It was just coming down. Just
gliding.
And it took a good couple of minutes for us to hit the ground, and they were going to try to make a field that was off in a distance. And I find out from Jamie that they went over a field trying to get to the other field because they had no flap control. And people say, well, why didn't they turn the plane? Because
right.
With no power, if you'd have turned the plane, you'd have nosedived into the ground because it had no power. And so it was just a dead glide.
Right.
And we came up short for making the field, about a couple of 100 yards, and then ran into hit the trees, and then did hit a big tree, and that was...
But you play an interesting role in this, because when you knew that the plane was going down, you went to Ronnie, because Ronnie was still asleep on the floor.
Well, I had kicked him in the ribs when I went 2 times to the cockpit to argue with the pilots about not doing what I told them to do. And so everybody on the plane had in their mind that we were going to make a belly landing.
They thought you were going to be safe.
Yeah, they thought we were going to make a belly landing, so they're getting ready for a belly landing. And then the 3rd time I ran up to the cockpit to cuss the pilots out, I seen the plane had changed its angle and we wasn't going to make the field. So at that time, the only people on the plane knew that we wasn't going to make it was the 2 pilots and me. And I ran and grabbed Ronnie up off the floor, pushed him between the alligators, sound asleep, crawled down with him to sleeping pills, arguing with me, "Okay, listen with me, man, I gotta get some sleep. What are you doing?" I said, "That's what's happening." I said, "The plane's crashing, man. Put your head down." I grabbed the pillow. He wanting to get up. He wanted to get up and fight because he thought I was messing with him.
Yeah.
I said, "I'm not messing with you. The plane's crashing." And I put his head down, and he reared back up.
And he was strapped in at that point, right?
He was strapped in at that point. And so when somebody said trees, we started hitting the trees. You know, I turned to run back up to my seat, but we came in at a 52-degree angle, so I was going uphill, and I wasn't sure he unsnapped the seatbelt, but in the position that he was in and everything, when I saw the autopsy photos, and then when I saw the seatbelts down the street, there was 4 seatbelts: Alan, Gary, Kevin Nelson, and Ronnie. The other 3 seatbelts had been cut, but these guys cut them to get them out, and Ronnie's seatbelt was unsnapped.
So he had unsnapped himself?
If he hadn't unsnapped the seatbelt, he'd probably still be alive. Possibly he could be alive.
Now, when the plane was crashing, Gene, what happened to you?
I was... Dwayne Easley was one of the very first people there, and this was like an hour and a half after the crash, about an hour and a half. How long was it after the actual crash when y'all got there and started getting people out?
It was less than 30 minutes.
About 30 minutes. And so when the fuselage broke apart, I was the only person thrown out because I wasn't in my seat or in my seatbelt. And on the other side of the plane, they said a crack in the fuselage, and I must have went through that fuselage and ended up under the wing. This wing was tore off on this side, but the wing was on the other side, and I was up under that. And he said he walked around the plane a couple times just before it got pitch black dark, and nobody knew I was under there.
Were you conscious?
No, I was unconscious. And then when they got Billy out, and they set Billy on the wing, Billy's nose was kind of cut. And sometime later, Billy said I crawled out from under the wing with a big hole in my head and black stuff and blood everywhere. And Billy hollered for the responders to come help Gene Odom. And this was, they got there about 30 minutes, like he said, it was an hour and something. And I crawled up from under the plane, unconscious, and I reached for Billy, and Billy said he would push me back.
And how bad a shape were you in at this point?
Oh, I had a massive hole in my head, and the chemicals had burnt my eye. The phosphorus had melted my eye, and had a big burnt hole burnt my face. My arms were burnt from the phosphorus, which come from, I'll find out, a flare, old flare that had been on the plane, and partially ignited and melted. The phosphorus melted black spots on my face and my head. When I hit the ground, there used to be scars on my arm. I guess I threw my hand up when I went through the fuselage and cut my arm. And
so did you end up in the hospital?
Oh yeah, I was in the hospital for about a week there, and then my family got me to take because they wouldn't do anything for me here. They didn't know my neck, my back was all broke up because they thought I was brain dead, and I was brain dead because I was brain dead before I got on the plane, you know. And so I had massive head injuries, and ended up finding out my neck was broke, my back was broken, ribs were all busted up. Found this out in Jacksonville. So I stayed about a month in the hospital.
Okay. So when you got out of the hospital, did you know that anybody had passed away? Or what did you know about the crash? Because
Very little. They didn't tell me who had passed away or anything. They didn't tell me Ronnie had passed away. And my girlfriend at the time, when I got out, I wanted to go visit Ronnie and see how he was doing. And so she said, okay, I'm going to take you to, so I'm going out to Orange Park. We're going to Orange Park where Ronnie lived at. And she pulls into the cemetery. And I said, what are you doing here? She says, this is where Ronnie's at. And oh boy, that broke me down.
You didn't even know that he had passed?
I didn't know. They didn't tell me. You know, I guess medical reasons or whatever, you know, psychological reasons or whatever. That broke me down.
Sir, would you introduce yourself?
I'm Dwayne Easley.
And you're the property owner here, yes, correct? And you were also part of the rescue party.
The plane went over their house with no engines running, and they knew it was coming toward our house. So she called us immediately and said, "It's a plane going down towards your house."
Do you have quite a bit of acreage here? Is that how they knew, or?
Well, it's thousands of acres of timberland back here, which we had 300 acres. There's a lot of timberland back there, no houses.
Okay.
She knew it was headed in our direction, so me and Wayne Blaze immediately jumped up and started looking.
Okay.
But we was at the plane probably within 20 minutes of the crash.
Really? And how bad, where do you start when something like that happens?
Well, I can hear people inside, you know, asking for help. I mean, crying for help and moaning and help. When you hear that, you just...
Did you have any training as like a first responder, what to do? You had to go into action?
No, I never had that kind of training. You know, you hear people inside, you just, I guess, natural.
Yeah. And do you recall who you found or who you helped and the first?
I know that Dean Kilpatrick, Cassie Gaines, I know for sure we got those two out. We got a lot more people out. I don't know how many, and I don't know who they were.
And did you happen to find Gene? Or how
no,
did you?
I mean, I don't guess no. He apparently was up under the plane. I was inside the plane.
Okay.
And it was 4 of us inside the plane.
Oh my gosh.
And Jamie and I and 2 other guys were inside.
Did you know who they were when this crashed? No clue.
I didn't know until it was all over with, completely gone. They were all gone to the hospital, and a young kid walked up to me and asked me that I know who it was. I said no. And that's when he said LYNYRD SKYNYRD Band.
Wow. So let me ask you, when you're a landowner like this and something like that happens, what happens to the wreckage? Who's responsible for that, or where is it still back? How does that work?
The FAA, they reconstruct planes that once they crash. You've seen that.
Right, to find out what happened?
They came and got probably 98% of the plane out and took it to Brookhaven and to try to figure out what happened.
Okay.
So it's very little stuff was left back there then.
And then how long until after this did you get involved with what we're seeing here, this wonderful monument? How did that come about that you were
Well,
loaning your land for something like this?
probably 38 years went by. I think it was 2014, 2013. And anyway, that's when we first started talking about the crash. All those years went by. We were friends and neighbors. We never talked about it. They got it started. And then in one of our meetings, one of our anniversary get-together, somebody mentioned that most plane crashes have some kind of a monument or something.
Yeah.
And people just started talking about it. And you know, they said, well, let's do it.
You have an amazing monument out here. I mean, you guys really, each panel tells a story about the band and that day, and you just captured everyone in a wonderful way.
Well, yeah, it started out as we were just going to put a road sign, a small road sign. Then we tried to get on the blues trail. That didn't work. And in order to, Bobby McDaniel came to me and asked me about putting it on private property because it's close, and do away with the state because we couldn't get anything done. You know, politics.
Right.
Takes forever. So I agreed to set aside this little part, and then people started donating money, fans from all over the country, and the present band gave us money.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it turned into a much bigger thing than we originally planned.
Ma'am, I was told to come out here and talk to you because I was told you're the woman who shot Artemis Pyle. Is that true?
No, it's just a joke.
Now,
but he said he was shot when he came to my house. He wasn't shot. He used my telephone to call home, or he called somewhere, and that was a long distance call. And Artemis never paid me for that phone call. And
so
we was poor back then. He should have paid me for that phone call.
So that's become a local joke around here. Some people before I came out here said, oh, you got to talk to her because she has a shirt that people have made her that has a big bullet hole on it and it says, I shot Artemis.
First Artemis said he got shot, and then someone told him, the farmer said he didn't shoot you. And then he told him, well, it was the farmer's son. Well, guess what? The farmer's son hadn't even been born then. So he's changed his story over the years. And then he started telling that, well, the bullet ricocheted and came back and hit him in the shoulder. Well, he came in my house.
That's where the story ends. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah.
When I drove up
He
there,
didn't
he
get
wasn't shot. He was in good health.
Yeah, you were a rescue
I was
as
the
well.
first one there.
But he's shot in the head.
Yeah.
His head is shot, but nobody shot him in the
If it ricocheted, it had to ricochet off the moon.
head.
But he shot up in the air.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, they-
come right back there.
And but, you know, if you're recording this, I actually thought it was a shotgun. And then years later I asked her, and she said, no, it was a 243 rifle they shot up in the air with. So he just...
I knew they had a gun. I didn't even know they shot till years later. Years later, they told me they shot up in the air.
Yeah,
And
just
it was because the three of them was chasing him down in the field over there. And then he flew out of the field, came down to the house, to our house trailer, and they still coming after him up the driveway.
because they just didn't know who he was or what he was
No,
doing.
but at the same time, that helicopter was flying all around with a big spotlight on it. And so he thought that they were escaped convicts. He come in the house and he said, y'all get on, he told me, get down on the floor. Escaped convicts are out here.
Oh,
He got his rifle and went back out there and shot up in the air.
gotcha.
Listen, I tell people about that guy, Artemis. If you're standing in water up to your neck, and Artemis tells you your feet is wet, don't believe it. You can't believe nothing he says.
Now, Gene, thank you so much for telling your story and everything today, because that's got to be a hard story to recount.
It is. It's extremely difficult to recount it because of the loss of Ronnie, and it brings back the memories.
Right, but without you, I don't think we, and actually all of you, I don't think we have a true story. That's what, it's the survivors that tell the story that
These guys know the true story, and she's just a responder also, and her then husband, she's divorced now, but they know the story. And
Yeah.
these people know that Artemis Powell didn't get shot. They shot up in the air, but in Artemis's mind, and for some sympathy or whatever, he likes to tell people he got shot. You know, I tell people, you want some sympathy? Look at a dictionary with somewhere between shit and syphilis.
He wants people to think he's a badass. That's what he
No,
wants,
he's a lunatic. But they, I mean, these people ain't gonna tell you no lies. I'm never gonna tell a lie about nothing or nobody, because I know the story. I lived it, and these guys right here helped save our lives. You know, and they say I didn't see that freaky movie you made. They say that he runs around front of the plane, tears his fuselage down, and gets people out. Is that true?
Artemis came back into the woods.
No, I mean
No,
on his movie.
Did he do it in the
Oh no, that's not true.
Oh.
But Artemis, I can just tell you this. I didn't know who they were, but I do know now. I learned later. But Artemis and Gary and some other guy came in, sat on a log right behind me where we were pulling people out, and watched. He never opened his mouth, not one time.
Like, didn't help, or were they just in
no,
shock, or
yeah,
what?
he didn't just watch.
Oh my gosh, he's been shot.
He stood there. He stood there and watched us. And Gary was standing there holding us like he was hurt, of course. But he never opened. Artemis never opened his mouth, never said a word. And like I said, didn't know who they were. But then, yeah, we were into the rescue. Probably got 5 or 6 people out by the time they got back in the woods. He got back in the woods.
But you know he didn't get shot because Artemis went to Magnolia Hospital. They didn't meet him. He went to Macomb and they didn't meet him up there.
Listen, you folks can pull up on the internet if you know how to do that, the FAA report. And if you read that, I've read it. If you read the FAA report, it explains about everybody's injuries. At the time they did that, I had been back in Jacksonville and they didn't know how bad I was injured until they did x-rays. But it tells you about everybody's injuries. And you know what it says about Artemis Powell?
What's that?
Artemis Powell walked away from the crash. That's the report from the FAA on his injuries. And I'm gonna tell you something you don't know. He tells about people, his ribs were sticking out. He had a cut on his rib cage. This is from an eyewitness that got out of that fuselage before y'all got there, that was squatting down in the woods thinking the plane was gonna catch on fire. He said, don't mention my name. When Artemis Powell got out of that fuselage, through that slot and that rip and that tear, that fuselage, he got out. And he said he looked around and took his ribcage and scraped it on the fuselage.
Oh.
No kidding.
Put that, and he said, don't you never mention my name. I won't mention his name. But he got out of that plane before Artemis did. That's how he got the fuselage, the cut on his ribcage. But the FAA states Artemis Powell walked away from the crash, states no injuries from him.
So the 3 that came away from the crash, you found them right out here, right?
No, they was trying to stop him out there in that field.
Oh, okay,
He
your
was
husband was
putting
out there, right.
My ex-husband. And then when he noticed they were trying to stop him and he saw the helicopter, he got in his truck, got on the road and come flying back up the driveway. Now, I don't know the way they came, but they came back into my yard.
And the crash site is actually out here, out past here. So the field is pretty overgrown now, and it's on private property, but the actual crash happened right off in there.
We might can ride a little further.
Well, we'll go as close as we can get. They just said, yeah, it's gotten really overgrown down there.
Very close to our field.
And a lot of people think that's where he was trying to land, yeah.
Yeah, but nobody really knows. And now, I think Artemis claimed he looked out the plane window in the front. I don't know if he saw this open field and that's why he walked this way when he got out of the crash, or if he just could kind of see our lights up there on the phone.
And here it actually mentions that the plane that they had doomed flight suspicions before they even took off. The company that owned the aircraft had scheduled it for maintenance soon, and some of the band members considered taking a commercial flight because it hadn't been up to inspection. This one says Reunion and Legacy. Best of Lynyrd Skynyrd songs never faded in the years since the crash. The music speaks to the life, the American South, but touches on the universal themes: nonconformity, freedom, love, loyalty, betrayal, and loss, transcending geography to reach fans across time and location. The 10th anniversary. The crash, the band members who survived the accident, Gary Rossington, Alan Collins, Billy Powell, Leon Wilkeson, Artemis Powell reunited for a tribute tour. They brought along guitarist Randall Hall and early member Ed King. Collins, unable to perform on stage due to a prior car accident, acted as maestro to the group. No one could fill Ronnie's shoes, but his brother Johnny took the mic. Well, my friends, this has been a fantastic stop. I mean, just to get to hear the true stories of that day from the responders and a survivor of the crash is just kind of one of those things that you can't pass up. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you all next time from the Lynyrd Skynyrd Crash Site Memorial. Have a great night and goodbye.